Well, first, how did you get? I saw the film last night, and man, it was incredible. You were
Oh,
fantastic.
thank you.
How did you get involved in the project?
Uh, the filmmaker sent me the script. There was some interest in me. They didn't just offer it to me by any means, but they were interested. So they sent it, and I read it, and I liked the script very much. I loved the character. I think I got back to them within like a day, and we arranged for a Skype call. Back in the days of Skype,
Mhm.
pre-Zoom.
Sure.
It was very old-fashioned. Um, so we had a great talk, and I thought it went well. And they still kind of had to go through their process. And then about a month went by, and I hadn't heard anything. So I offered to make a tape, to make a little audition. Um, I asked if they'd like me to do that, and they said, sure, if you'd like. So I took it upon myself to do that. And then, yeah, it ended up going my way.
Did you? This is a pretty intense role. Did you do any research for it at all?
Uh, I wouldn't use the word research necessarily. um, this was a role that I found I really couldn't go to any external sources for.
Sure.
It was really, you had to go inside. So in terms of research, really the only place to go was inside myself. So that was the research.
This was Dean's first feature film.
Yeah.
What was it like? What was the experience like working with him? I mean, this was his first feature writing and directing as well. Was it? Was it? I mean, you've been in the industry for a little while now. What was it like working with a first time director like Dean?
It was a lovely experience. We had a really nice rapport, and yeah, I definitely took a gamble. He had done a couple short films that I had seen, that I was really impressed with. So I felt like I was in good hands, and obviously he had written this incredible character, which was just such a gift.
Right. Did you? Now, when we meet Holly, she's, I would say, almost broken as it is, and the events in the film kind of put her over the edge. Did you and Dean, and they kind of provide some backstory within the context of the film, but did you and Dean come up with any further backstory for her at all?
Not really what's beyond what you see in the film, but one thing that was really interesting in terms of the way we shot this, which I had never done before, and it was really helpful and informative to my sort of emotional escalation, was we shot this film almost entirely in sequence, which,
Interesting.
as you know, is really unheard of. We truly did start on the first day with scene one, page one. So that was hugely helpful to me in terms of, you mentioned a backstory, and obviously there was some degree of backstory, but just in terms of a character's evolution, progressing or declining in this situation, that was hugely helpful, and I was so appreciative of it.
How much were you able to pull from your own experiences?
Well, I'm not a wife or a mother.
I know. That's why I'm curious as to how you.
Avoided both of those situations.
Right.
But I certainly drew from lots of wives and mothers that I know. The role of wife and mother is such a huge one, and oftentimes a thankless one, and oftentimes taken for granted. And I think if everyone treated their mothers with a little bit more care and kindness, then everyone would be a lot happier.
I'm curious if Dean mentioned any inspiration for the character in the writing process.
Well, he talked about women that he had grown up with, whose plights weren't really obvious to him until he was much older. When you're a kid, all the adults around you do their best to shield you and hide you from
Right.
all the bad stuff going on. And it's not until you get older and you find out that what they were dealing with, all the harrowing things, that you get some perspective. But I'd like to speak to what you were talking about in terms of like that invisible person. And that really was a huge component of the character. And I think that that's something that a lot of people experience. It's like, I'm here in this room talking to you, but I don't feel like anyone really sees me. I don't feel like anyone's really hearing me and listening to me. And I feel like that's how she feels going through her life, sort of as this invisible person. The only time I feel like she really feels seen is when she's in the classroom.
Right.
Holly's a high school English teacher. And I felt like that was the only time that she really felt like she was listened to and really seen and really valued. That was sort of her little place where she could shine.
Right. As we, again, without giving anything away, to the point where it may be inappropriate, which I thought was a very interesting element to the.
And in that situation too, without giving too much away, that attraction there in that relationship, that more than anything is just someone who actually sees her, you know, and who recognizes her and who thinks she's amazing and thinks she's beautiful. And she's just felt so invisible for so long that recognition is so powerful.
I feel this might have been emotionally draining, this role. And you said you shot it sequentially, which made it a lot easier for development of the character. Are you able to walk away from the character between takes?
I always walk away from my characters immediately.
Yeah.
They cut and then the character is gone. I always have to come right back to being me, even between takes. I'm not someone who stays in character at all. That's not by choice. That's just naturally the way I work. And in this situation, I'm very grateful for it because she would have been a tough one to take home. Certainly.
Right.
You talked about those really emotionally arduous scenes. You asked if they were draining, I think. And people always think that they're draining. And I certainly understand that. But I actually find them to be quite exhilarating and energizing. You know, it's like they can be very cathartic if there's anything you have going on that's stuck in there that maybe you didn't even know it was there. When you get to do a scene like that, it just all kind of gets cleared out. And you feel amazing after.
Do you, I mean, I imagine there's got to be a level of therapy to it for sure.
Yeah. No, I said it's very cathartic. It's not dissimilar to an exorcism of sorts.
Now you've been 20 years now. You've been acting. How have you found? I mean, this is an incredible role. How have you found the roles that you've seen? You either played or you've seen. How have they changed since your career began? Roles, as far as what you're being offered, or what you're auditioning for, if you're still auditioning.
Yes, I do. Auditioning has started again. I do it from home now. It's fantastic. Yeah. No complaints there. Well, you know, it's funny. I started when I was so young. I did my first job when I was 15. Right. So I'm actually going on almost 25 years in the business. But it's been interesting growing up in it. And obviously at that point I was very much the kid. You know, and now oftentimes I'm one of the older people on set. So that's been an interesting journey. And I feel very grateful to have been in it so long.
What kind of roles do you generally gravitate toward?
I like roles that are well written, regardless of the character. I like saying good words. That's always most important. But, you know, the more complex, layered, interesting roles, the better. It's not every day you get a role like Holly. This was definitely the role of a lifetime. Yeah. And I say that in complete seriousness. It's the best role that I have ever gotten. I don't know that I'll ever get a role that's this good again. So
it's all downhill from here.
Real gift. Pardon?
So it's all downhill from here.
It's all downhill from here. I hope not.
Do you like to rehearse? How are you? I mean, especially with the production this short, was there rehearsal time for you guys?
There was a little bit of rehearsal. And by that, I just mean like on the day, right before we shot, you know, we just run through a bit of quick rehearsal. There wasn't any rehearsal prior to shooting, which isn't unusual. I do like rehearsal, but not too much. I like that freshness. I find after I've said it too many times, it starts to sound like I've said it too many times. Right. So I do like to rehearse, but I always like to rehearse on camera because you never know if, you know, you might get something good.
How does Dean feel about stepping away from what's written on the script?
I don't think we deviated from the script at all.
No.
I don't think there was any improv. It was pretty much all on the page.
Is that how you prefer to work?
It's always different. Um, Sometimes if something comes up on the day in the moment, and you want to add something, it's always sometimes that can be nice, but sometimes there's no need, and that's what I found here. What was on the page was perfectly sufficient.
What I thought was interesting is that the film crosses genres. It's definitely a drama, but there's elements of horror to it as well. Is that something you're generally drawn to, or I mean, you've done across the board. Your career's been from sitcoms to this, so I'm just curious as to what kind of genre you'd like to work in.
Well, I did like this sort of cross genre thing that this film had. Definitely, it's funny because a lot of people are referring to it as a horror film, and I never thought of it as a horror film when we were doing it. Even though there are some very horrific elements to it, and certainly, the final act goes off the rails in a very horrific way. I always thought of it as more a dramatic thriller, a domestic thriller. But it's interesting that it's sort of getting more of a horror buzz, and I like that because I find that most times the most terrifying things in life are those domestic situations,
Sure.
or the ones that take place in our own heads. They're not the CG monsters.
What are you hoping that people take away from the film?
I hope this film is a reminder to people that you never really know what's going on with someone, so don't assume. Whether that's the person standing next to you at the grocery market, or even maybe members of your household who live with you. You never really know what's going on with someone. So treat each other with care and kindness and patience. Don't assume.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Congratulations on the film again. It's fantastic.